The massive courtroom of Nexus Prime buzzed with alien chatter as dozens of different species filled the observation decks. This was no ordinary trial. Judge Vextar, the most feared Cytherian magistrate in 3 star systems, was about to deliver judgment on yet another human. Kim Mina stood perfectly still inside the shimmering detention field, her dark hair pulled back and her expression calm despite the hostile atmosphere. Around her, the energy barrier hummed with a low frequency that made most humans nauseous, but she showed no signs of discomfort. The courtroom's artificial gravity was set to Cytherian standard, making every human movement feel sluggish and heavy, yet Mina remained poised. Judge Vextar rose from his elevated platform, his 6 spider-like legs clicking against the metal floor. His bulbous head swiveled on multiple joints as 4 yellow eyes focused on the defendant. Purple veins pulsed beneath his translucent skin, betraying his excitement at another opportunity to humble a human. Defendant Kim Mina of Earth Colony. 7? His voice boomed through the translation matrix, causing several smaller aliens in the gallery to cover their hearing organs. You stand accused of 3 serious violations against the sovereignty of Nexus Prime Station. The prosecution's evidence appeared on holographic displays throughout the courtroom. Security footage showed Mina walking through the merchant quarter, her wrist scanner discreetly collecting data from various storefronts. Another clip captured her speaking with a nervous Zephyrian trader who kept glancing around as if afraid of being watched. Violation of Section 47B Trade Protocols, Vextar announced with obvious satisfaction. The defendant was caught using unauthorized scanning equipment in restricted commercial zones. This technology, he gestured to an image of Mina's simple wrist device, is capable of penetrating standard privacy shields used by our merchant community. A murmur went through the alien observers. Privacy violations were taken seriously on Nexus Prime, where dozens of species conducted business under strict confidentiality agreements. Furthermore, the judge continued, his voice growing louder, unauthorized data collection from 17 different establishments. The defendant systematically gathered protected information about trade routes, pricing structures, and supply chains without proper permits. Mina shifted slightly, and the detention field sparked where her shoulder touched the energy barrier. She winced but said nothing. Finally, interference with station commerce. 3 separate merchants have filed complaints stating that the defendant's questioning made their customers uncomfortable and disrupted normal business operations. Judge Vextar's 4 eyes fixed on Mina with predatory intensity. These are not minor infractions. These are serious crimes that threaten the economic stability of Nexus Prime and violate the trust that allows peaceful trade between our many species. The courtroom fell silent, except for the steady hum of the station's life support systems. Somewhere in the distance, a cargo ship's engines roared to life as it departed for another star system. Mina finally spoke, her voice steady and respectful. Your Honor, I was merely conducting routine business inquiries. I'm a freelance trade consultant helping small Earth colonies identify new market opportunities. The scanning equipment you mentioned is standard commercial analysis gear available to any licensed trader. Her words were translated into dozens of languages simultaneously, but Vextar's expression didn't change. I spoke with merchants about general market conditions and publicly available trade information, she continued. I believe there's been a serious misunderstanding about my activities and intentions. Vextar's legs clicked against the floor as he leaned forward. The sound echoed through the chamber like gunshots. Silence, he roared, causing several small creatures in the gallery to scurry for cover. You humans always claim innocence when caught breaking our laws. Always excuses, always explanations. His purple veins pulsed brighter as his anger grew. Do you think we are fools? Do you believe your primitive species can deceive the ancient wisdom of the Cytherian judiciary? The holographic evidence flickered and changed, showing enhanced scans of Mina's equipment. To most observers, it looked sophisticated and potentially dangerous. The evidence is absolutely clear, Vextar declared. Illegal scanning of merchant databases, systematic collection of protected information, and deliberate questioning designed to extract confidential trade data. Your actions show calculated disregard for our laws and customs. He raised his primary appendage, and the ceremonial judgment rod materialized in his grasp. The crystalline device pulsed with inner light as it recorded his words for the permanent record. I sentence you to immediate exile from this station and a permanent ban from all Cytherian space. You will be transported to the nearest human outpost and forbidden from returning. Your equipment will be confiscated and destroyed. The gallery erupted in alien chatter as security drones emerged from hidden panels in the walls. Their sleek forms glided silently toward the detention field, red scanner lights sweeping across Mina's face. She maintained her composed demeanor as the energy barrier dissolved around her. No protests, no pleas for mercy, no angry outbursts. That might have satisfied the judge's expectations. She simply stood there with quiet dignity as the mechanical escorts moved into position. Court dismissed, Vextar announced with obvious satisfaction, already turning away to review his next case. Just another human properly dealt with. The security office of Nexus Prime hummed with activity as various alien species processed through detention protocols. Park Ji-ho sat behind his curved desk, watching the holographic displays that showed every corner of the massive space station. As one of only 3 humans in station security, he had worked hard to earn respect among his alien colleagues. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and 2 security drones escorted Kim Mina into the processing area. She walked calmly between the floating machines, her hands secured behind her back with energy restraints that glowed blue against her wrists. Another human troublemaker, muttered his Voltarian colleague from across the room, his snake-like head swaying as he spoke. Judge Vextar sure enjoys putting your species in their place. Ji-ho ignored the comment and focused on his screen. Something about this case bothered him. He had watched the trial proceedings through the security feeds, and Mina's behavior seemed too controlled, too professional for a simple trade consultant caught breaking the law. Lee Hyon, he called to his assistant, a young human who had recently transferred from Earth's colonial security force. Bring up the exile documentation for Kim Mina. We need to process her transfer to the next outbound human transport. Hyon's fingers danced across his holographic interface, pulling up the standard forms. Got it, Chief. Transport ship New Soul departs in 6 hours for the outer colonies. Should I book her passage? Not yet, Ji-ho said, studying Mina through the security cameras. She sat quietly in the holding area, seemingly unbothered by the chaos around her. Other detainees paced their cells, argued with guards, or slumped. In defeat, she just sat there like she was waiting for a shuttle to work. Run a full biometric scan first, Ji-ho ordered. Standard exile protocol requires identity verification before transport. Hyon activated the scanning array, and invisible. Beam swept over Mina from multiple angles. The advanced sensors mapped everything from her DNA structure to her retinal patterns, comparing the data against vast databases throughout human space. This might take a few minutes, Chief, Hyon said, as progress bars crawled across his screen. The systems checking against colonial records, Earth Central Registry, and military databases. While they waited, Ji-ho watched the security feeds from the merchant quarter where Mina had been arrested. He rewound the footage, studying her movements frame by frame. Her scanning technique was smooth and professional, but something about her body language suggested military training. The way she moved through crowds, how she positioned herself near exits, the subtle way she observed her surroundings. Chief, Yon's voice cut through his thoughts. We have a problem. Ji-ho spun his chair around to face his assistant's workstation. Red warning symbols flashed across multiple screens, and error messages cascaded down the displays in various human languages. Her biosignature isn't matching any colonial databases, Hyon said, his voice tight with concern. The system keeps hitting security barriers. What kind of barriers? Ji-ho asked, moving to look over Hyun's shoulder. Look at this, Hyon pointed to a screen filled with classification codes. Her identity is sealed under Diplomatic Protection Act 7. Chief, I've never seen clearance levels this high. Ji-ho's blood ran cold as he read the security warnings. Diplomatic Protection Act 7 was reserved for Earth's most sensitive personnel, ambassadors, special envoys, intelligence operatives working on critical missions. What do you mean classified? He asked, though he was already beginning to understand the implications. "I mean, this woman's identity is locked down tighter than a black hole," Hyun explained, sweat beading on his forehead. "The system won't even tell us her real name without authorization from Earth Command itself. Chief, only Earth's highest-ranking officials have that level of security protection." The room suddenly felt much colder. Jiho realized they might have just witnessed a diplomatic disaster in the making. If Kim Mina was actually a high-ranking Earth official working undercover, Judge Vextar had just made the kind of mistake that started interstellar incidents. "Shut down all exile procedures immediately," Jiho commanded, his training kicking in. "Contact the detention center and put a security hold on the prisoner. No one moves her anywhere until we figure out who she really is." Hyun's fingers flew across his interface, sending urgent messages throughout the security network. "Chief, what if she's some kind of spy? What if Earth sent her here on a secret mission?" "Then we're about to find out," Jiho replied grimly. He activated his emergency communication array, the one reserved for critical incidents that required immediate attention from Earth Command. As the quantum transmission system powered up, filling the room with a high-pitched whine, other security officers began to take notice. The Voltarian looked up from his desk with interest, while a pair of insectoid klaxons chittered nervously in their native language. "Earth Command Priority Channel," Jiho spoke into the communication device. "This is Security Chief Park Jiho, Naxos Prime Station. I need immediate identity verification for a detainee under Diplomatic Protection Act 7. Classification level appears to be above my clearance." The transmission array crackled with static as it sent the message across. Hundreds of light years in seconds. Now all they could do was wait for Earth's response and hope they hadn't already triggered an interstellar crisis. Mina continued to sit quietly in her cell, but Jiho noticed she had lifted her head slightly, as if she could sense the change in the station's atmosphere. A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. The sleek diplomatic vessel, Earth's Voice, dropped out of hyperspace with a flash of brilliant blue light that illuminated half of Nexus Prime's docking ring. The ship was unlike the bulky cargo haulers and civilian transports that usually visited the station. Its hull gleamed with polished titanium steel alloy, and defensive turrets rotated menacingly as it approached the priority docking bay. Station traffic control scrambled to clear approach vectors as the diplomatic courier requested immediate berthing. No one wanted to delay an Earth diplomatic mission, especially one traveling at emergency speed with full military escort authorization. Inside the ship's command center, Ambassador Choi Dayun reviewed the situation reports flooding her screens. Her jaw tightened as she read Judge Vextar's sentencing record, particularly his pattern of harsh judgments against human defendants over the past 5 years. "Ma'am, we're getting docking clearance now," reported her aide, a sharp-eyed woman named Kim Sora, who served as both diplomatic assistant and security coordinator. "Station Commander Yithek is requesting a meeting as soon as we dock." "He'll get his meeting," Choi replied grimly, adjusting her formal diplomatic robes. The deep blue fabric carried the silver emblem of Earth's diplomatic corps, a symbol that commanded respect throughout the galaxy. "But first, we retrieve Ambassador Kim." The ship's landing thrusters fired in perfect sequence, settling the vessel onto the docking platform with barely a vibration. As the airlock cycled, Choi's security detail took their positions. 6 seasoned humans in tactical gear, each one trained for diplomatic protection in hostile environments. The station's artificial atmosphere rushed in as the doors opened, carrying the mixed scents of dozens of alien species. Choi stepped onto the platform with purposeful strides, her security team flanking her in protective formation. Station personnel scrambled to get out of their way as the group moved through the corridors like a force of nature. News of the diplomatic arrival spread through Nexus Prime's communication networks faster than light-speed gossip. Alien traders paused their negotiations to watch the humans pass by. Even the massive Krogthan dock workers stopped their heavy lifting to observe the unusual sight of Earth's diplomatic machinery in full motion. Station Commander Yithek waited nervously in the main command center, his purple tentacles writhing with anxiety. The cephaloid leader had commanded Nexus Prime for 12 years, but he had never faced a diplomatic crisis of this magnitude. His normally calm demeanor cracked as reports flooded in about the human delegation's arrival. "Commander," his communications officer announced, "the Earth delegation is requesting immediate access to our detention facilities." Before Ethek could respond, the command center doors burst open. Ambassador Choi Daeun entered like a storm front, her security detail spreading out to secure the area. Every alien in the room instinctively stepped back as her presence filled the space. "Release Ambassador Kim Mina immediately," she demanded, without any diplomatic pleasantries. Her voice carried the authority of Earth's most powerful government, and her eyes blazed with controlled fury. She presented a data pad containing her credentials, and Ithek's tentacles curled in fear as he read the authentication codes. Choi. Daeun wasn't just any diplomat. She was Earth's senior ambassador for galactic affairs, one of the most influential humans in known space. "Ambassador?" Station Commander Ethek's voice cracked as he spoke. "I was told she was a trade consultant charged with commercial violations." "Where is Judge Vextar?" Choi asked coldly, ignoring his confusion. "Summon him here immediately." Security Chief Park Jiho entered the command center at that moment, having rushed from his office when he learned of the diplomatic arrival. His face was pale as he approached the group. "Ambassador Choi," he said respectfully, "I'm the one who identified the security classification and halted the exile proceedings." Choi nodded approvingly. "Smart thinking, Chief Park. Your actions may have prevented a much worse situation." Within minutes, Judge Vexatar arrived, his 6 legs clicking nervously against the metal floor. His usual arrogant demeanor had completely disappeared, replaced by obvious confusion and growing dread. "Ambassador?" he stammered, his 4 eyes darting between Choi and the security detail. "But she said she was a simple trader. Her documentation clearly stated, 'Ambassador Kim Mina is Earth's special envoy for interspecies justice,'" Choi replied with ice in her voice. "She was conducting an official undercover investigation into discrimination within your legal system. An investigation you just proved necessary." The words hit the command center like a photon torpedo explosion. Every alien present understood the implications immediately. Judge Vextar had just sentenced one of Earth's most respected diplomats to exile, treating her like a common criminal. Vextar's legs gave out and he collapsed onto the floor with a metallic crash. His purple veins pulsed frantically as panic set in. But how was I supposed to know? She never identified herself. She accepted the charges." "Because that was her job," Choi explained coldly. "To experience exactly how your court system treats human defendants, to document every instance of bias, every rushed judgment, every violation of proper legal procedure." News of the revelation spread through Nexus Prime's communication networks like wildfire. In the merchant quarter, alien traders stopped their business to discuss the shocking development. The most respected human diplomat in the galaxy had been sitting in their detention center, treated like a common criminal. Station Commander Ithek's tentacles had turned pale with fear. A diplomatic incident of this magnitude could destroy his career and damage relations between dozens of species. Earth's response to mistreatment of their diplomats was legendary throughout the galaxy. "I want Ambassador Kim released immediately," Choi continued, her security team maintaining their alert positions. "I want full access to all trial records, security footage, and judicial proceedings. And I want explanations for how this travesty of justice was allowed to happen." The revelation sent shockwaves through the station hierarchy, but it was just the beginning. Earth's diplomatic machinery was now fully engaged, and the galaxy was about to learn why underestimating humanity always came with a price. The hyperspace exit points around Nexus Prime lit up like a festival of stars as Earth's diplomatic fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. 12 massive vessels materialized in perfect formation, their hulls bristling with defensive arrays and communication equipment. At the center of the fleet, Admiral Han Junho's flagship, Terra's Resolve, dwarfed even the largest alien freighters. Docked at the station, the arrival sent panic through Nexus Prime's traffic control center. Never before had such a large Earth military presence appeared in Cytherian space. The sight of humanity's finest warships, arranged in battle formation, made even the most arrogant alien officials nervous. "This is Admiral Han Junho of the Earth. Diplomatic fleet," his voice boomed across all communication channels. "We are here under Article 12 of the Galactic Diplomatic Protection Treaty. All station personnel will cooperate fully with our investigation." Inside his command center, Admiral Junho studied tactical displays showing every ship, station and defensive platform within 3 light hours. His weathered face bore the scars of decades spent protecting human interests across the galaxy. Behind him, communications officers maintained contact with Earth Command, while intelligence specialists analyzed every piece of data about Nexus Prime's operations. "Admiral," reported his aide, Commander Park Yunho, "we're receiving full cooperation. From Station Commander Ithek. They've transmitted all records related to Ambassador Kim's case." "Good," Junho replied grimly. "What about media distribution?" "The trial footage is being broadcast across all human colonies as we speak, sir. The reaction is intense. On Earth and throughout human space, billions of people watch the recorded proceedings with growing anger." Judge Vextar's dismissive treatment of Ambassador Kim, his refusal to hear evidence, and his excessive sentence sparked outrage from the outer colonies to Earth's capital cities. Social networks exploded with demands for justice and calls for diplomatic action. The footage showed everything in crystal clear detail: Vextar's contemptuous attitude toward the human defendant, his rushed judgment, and his obvious bias against her species. What made it worse was learning that the victim was Ambassador Kim Mina, a diplomat respected throughout the galaxy for her fair dealing and peaceful negotiations. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, Judge Vextar found himself facing his own tribunal. The Cytherian High Council had arrived to investigate the incident, their ancient faces grave as they reviewed the evidence. What they discovered painted a disturbing picture of systematic discrimination. "Judge Vextar," announced Council Elder Zix Thara, her 6 arms moving gracefully as she spoke, "you are charged with violation of judicial neutrality, failure to follow proper legal procedures, and bringing dishonor to Cytherian justice." The once proud judge sat in the same detention field where he had held Ambassador Kim just days before. His arrogant demeanor had completely disappeared, replaced by desperate attempts to justify his actions. "I followed established procedures," he protested weakly. "The evidence was clear. How was I supposed to know she was a diplomat?" "That is precisely the problem," Elder Zix Thara replied coldly. "Your treatment of her should have been the same, regardless of her identity. Justice must be blind to species, rank, and origin." The investigation revealed 23 cases over 5 years, where Vextar had imposed unusually harsh sentences on human defendants. His pattern of bias was undeniable, documented in court records and security footage. The evidence showed rushed trials, ignored defense arguments, and excessive punishments that far exceeded standard sentencing guidelines. Ambassador Kim Mina, now free and restored to her proper diplomatic status, sat in the observation area as Vextar's career crumbled before her eyes. She watched with professional calm as the judge who had tried to exile her faced his own judgment. The ripple effect spread far beyond Nexus Prime. Across the galaxy, other alien species began reviewing their own experiences with Cytherian justice. The Andromedans recalled several disputed trade cases. The Centauri Federation questioned old mining rights decisions. Even the powerful Draconian Empire started investigating past legal conflicts. "We're receiving reports from 17 different species," Commander Park reported to Admiral Junho. "They're all questioning previous Cytherian court decisions. Some are demanding new trials. Trade agreements that had stood for decades suddenly came under review. The Zephyrian Merchant Guild suspended all contracts with Cytherian-controlled stations. The Tau Ceti Mining Consortium withdrew from joint ventures. One by one, economic partnerships that formed the backbone of Cytherian prosperity began to crumble. Station Commander Ithek watched his station's daily operations collapse. As alien traders packed up and left, docking fees dropped by 60% in 3 days. The merchant quarter, once bustling with activity from dozens of species, became eerily quiet. The Catherian High Council faced a crisis of confidence unlike anything in their 1,000-year history. Their reputation for impartial justice had been shattered by one judge's prejudice. During Vextar's final hearing, Ambassador Kim was invited to address the court. She stood gracefully before the assembled judges, her presence commanding respect from every alien in the chamber. "Judge Vextar," she said calmly, her voice carrying throughout the silent courtroom, "you made a fundamental error in judgment, not just about the law, but about humanity itself." Vextar looked up at her with defeated eyes, his once proud bearing completely broken. "You underestimated us," she continued, her words measured and precise. "That was your first mistake. You assumed we would accept injustice quietly, that we wouldn't investigate, that we wouldn't respond to discrimination with the full weight of our civilization." The former judge's legs trembled as the weight of his actions became clear. "Your second mistake was thinking we wouldn't respond," Ambassador Kim concluded. "You forgot that humanity survived by standing together, by protecting our own, and by never backing down from bullies." As Vextar was led away to begin his own exile, the galaxy witnessed the power of humanity united in righteous anger. The Grand Assembly Hall of New Geneva Station floated majestically in the neutral zone between three major star systems, built specifically for the new Galactic Justice Oversight Committee. The massive structure rotated slowly against the backdrop of distant nebulae, its crystal walls reflecting the light of twin suns. Inside the main chamber, representatives from 47 different species gathered for the most important judicial reform meeting in galactic history. The curved seating arrangement allowed each delegation to see the central podium where Ambassador Kim Mina prepared to address the assembly. 6 months had passed since the Nexus incident, and the galaxy had never been the same. The shockwaves from Judge Vextar's downfall continued to reshape interspecies law throughout known space. Ambassador Kim stood at the podium, her Earth diplomatic uniform bearing new insignia that marked her as the first Director General of Galactic Justice Oversight. Behind her, holographic displays showed the new committee structure that would govern legal proceedings across the galaxy. "Esteemed delegates," she began, her voice carried to every corner of the assembly by advanced translation systems, "we gather today not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals united in the pursuit of true justice." In the section reserved for Earth's delegation, Song Minji reviewed the enforcement protocols on her tablet. As Deputy Director, she would oversee the implementation of new legal standards across thousands of star systems. Her experience as a former colonial prosecutor made her perfect for the challenging role. Nearby, Yoon Tae-hyung monitored security feeds from the Enforcement Division's command center. His team of investigators, drawn from multiple species but led by humans, had already begun reviewing questionable court cases throughout the galaxy. The early results were disturbing, but not surprising. "The Nexus incident," Ambassador Kim continued, "as history will remember it, exposed a cancer that had been growing in our galactic legal system for decades: systematic bias, rushed judgments, and discrimination based on species origin rather than facts and evidence." The Andromedans in the front row nodded their crystalline heads in agreement. Their recent review of Catherian trade decisions had revealed 12 cases of obvious bias against their mineral exports. The Centauri Federation had found even worse examples in their territorial disputes. In the gallery section, former Judge Vextar watched the proceedings with hollow eyes. Stripped of his position and banned from legal practice, he served as a living reminder of what happened when prejudice replaced justice. His once proud Catherian delegation now sat in the back, rows their influence greatly diminished. "The new oversight structure," Ambassador Kim explained as detailed charts appeared on the displays, "will ensure that no single species can dominate judicial proceedings. Mixed tribunals, mandatory evidence review periods, and appeals processes that cross species boundaries." The draconian representative, an imposing figure with silver scales and intelligent golden eyes, raised one clawed hand. "Director General Kim, how will enforcement work in practice? Many systems have ancient legal traditions." "An excellent question, Ambassador Corkston," Kim replied respectfully. We're not here to destroy existing legal systems, but to ensure they operate fairly for all species. Enforcement teams will work with local authorities, providing training and oversight rather than replacement. She gestured to Yoon Tae-hyung, who stood to address the assembly. Our enforcement division has already established regional offices in 12 sectors. Each office is staffed by investigators from multiple species, ensuring cultural sensitivity while maintaining objectivity. The transformation had been remarkable to witness. What began as a single incident of judicial misconduct had grown into the largest legal reform movement in galactic history. Species that had barely spoken to each other for centuries now worked together to create fair and impartial justice systems. The economic impact had been equally dramatic. Trade routes that had been controlled by Cytherian legal decisions for decades were now open to fair arbitration. The Zephyrian Merchant Guild had resumed operations throughout former Cytherian space, bringing prosperity to colonies that had been economically isolated. Today's vote, Ambassador Kim announced, will establish the final protocols for the new system. Every species represented here will have a voice in galactic justice, regardless of their military strength or economic power. The voting process took 3 hours, as each delegation carefully considered the proposed reforms. When the final tally appeared on the displays, the result was overwhelming. 45 species in favor, 2 abstentions, and 0 opposed. Even the Cytherian delegation voted in favor, recognizing that their survival depended on embracing the new order rather than fighting it. As the assembly erupted in applause, creatures of every shape and size celebrating together, Ambassador Kim felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The jeering faces in Judge Vextar's courtroom seemed like a lifetime ago. Today we prove that justice isn't about who has the biggest fleet or the oldest civilization, she declared, as the cheering subsided. It's about who has the courage to stand up and do what's right, regardless of the cost. The Tau Ceti delegation, their insectoid forms clicking in approval, had already benefited from the new system. 3 mining disputes that had lingered for years were resolved within weeks under fair arbitration. Former Judge Vextar watched from the gallery as his replacement, a joint tribunal of 5 different species, was sworn in to oversee Cytherian legal reforms. His career was over, but perhaps his downfall had served a greater purpose. The assembled delegates continued their applause as the ceremony concluded. Representatives from species that had been enemies for generations shook hands, tentacles, claws and appendages in celebration of their shared commitment to justice. Once again, humanity had taken persecution and transformed it into progress. They had faced discrimination and responded by creating a system that protected everyone. The galaxy would remember the Nexus incident not as Earth's moment of victimization, but as the day they chose to lead by example rather than retaliate with force. The end.